What is just a placebo effect but most people don't realize? I worked at a kid's birthday party place for a couple years in high school. So many kids would cry because they fell over, bumped their arm, etc. Never anything bad. I'd say something like, can you shake your foot around? Does it feel better? How about jumping in a circle? Alright, we are going to blow on your hand so it feels better and then ask if they are ready to play again. Works like a charm. Also bandages for little boo-boos. They think they are healed and get right back to being happy little kiddos. Any band-aids with cartoon characters on them instantly made my students feel better. Your perception of bad luck. The human brain is predisposed to remember bad experiences more vividly than the good ones. Thus, for an example, you may say your luck is always awful at tolls, when in reality you only get stuck in traffic 20% minus 50% of the time. When I worked train tech support, our agents would always get pushback from customers when we asked them to power cycle their phone, which 9 times out of 10 would fix their issue. So, I had them tell the customer to read them some numbers off the back of the battery when they were still removable, that we absolutely did not need. Then we told them we refreshed a few systems, and they put their battery back in and it's all fixed. Alternatively, when batteries couldn't be removed, we'd tell them that if the phone was powered on while we did the update, it could ruin their SIM card. So they'd make sure to power off their phone. I'd do nothing. They'd turn it back on and it worked great. But if I had told them to power cycle their phones, no way. So I'm sure this has happened to other people, but this question just reminded me of my principal. During meetings and such he uses the school auditorium, and most of the time I senior now at the school have to run the sound and lights. He's extremely annoying about it, and always asks for his mic to be turned up when in reality, he's already extremely loud and will bust the speakers. I just pretend to turn it up and ask him if it's good, and he speaks and says that's perfect. Thank you. I swear he thinks I'm doing an amazing job and would bring me a Coke or something for dealing with the meetings half of the day. Greatest placebo to use against others that I've done. Do commissioned creative stuff. If I deliver same or next day, people don't think I spent enough time on it. If I wait 3 days to deliver, people are happy because they assume I worked on their project non-stop even though I was done a day or 2 prior. I'm freelance artist and once I painted my client's dog portrait with acrylic. I took photos and sent it to her and she said she wanted to fix some part of it. Like hair was too dark and mouth was a little bit too big. Few hours later I accidentally resent one of the photo I sent to her again. She immediately replied, yes, this is what I want. I haven't touched up anything more but it's okay. Loading spinners on web pages. I once had a user complain to me a web app was too slow, and it was pretty fast. So I tested him by making the animation spinner spin much faster. He went to my boss to praise me how much faster the web app was. Spin.js is what I was using. Not even a spinner, but we added a message after loading that said nearly there when it got to the next step, and we got significantly fewer slow loading complaints. I install semi-truck bumpers. 90% of the time a customer will say it looks off by 1/8 of an inch. I'll make a noise with the impact gun on a bolt and say how's that? Yeah, it looks great. Nothing moved whatsoever. Some guys are extremely critical, I guess. Or they could just be uncomfortable asking again. I've had it where I didn't like my haircut and asked if they could change it when they asked how it looked. Whatever she did to my hair looked exactly the same to me, but I didn't want to be the guy that was holding everything up while others were waiting, so I just said it looked good. My dog's medicine coming out of his treat tin instead of medicine packaging makes a seconds ago disgusting medicine taste mysteriously treat-like. I just tell him to his face that it's a treat when it is clearly a pill covered in peanut butter. As a former lifeguard, I can assure you that whatever cleanup you see lifeguards doing after someone vomits in the pool is almost certainly just show. There isn't really anything you can do. You just let the filter chlorine take care of it and pretend to clean to please the suburban moms. I sold Christmas trees as a kid in junior and senior high school. Learned a trick for super fussy customers who had me hold up multiple trees to show them. After the 10th or so tree I'd yell to my co-worker, "Hey Mike, if they don't want this one, put it aside for me. Nicest tree I've seen this year." Worked like a charm. When I see salesmen doing this, I always feel they're taking me for a fool. It seems like the oldest trick in the book. I wonder why people are still falling for this. When my cat wants fresh food, but he still has some in his bowl, I pretend to put more in there. He usually falls for it. A lot of these psychology tricks and tips you'll see online, just in general, a lot of them have no scientific proof, but they work because everyone thinks they do. This is how I actually live my life. I just tell myself things like these and placebo myself into changing my mindset or mood. Yeah, LSHLD, try it works. I'm a big believer in the saying it's easier to act your way into a new way of thinking than it is to think your way into a new way of acting. How long it takes a coinster to process and count coins and return a receipt. It finishes quickly. So quickly that folks are skeptical of the accuracy. So a fake delay, with fake counting noises, was built in, giving folks more confidence in the results. That's amusing and I absolutely believe it. Not sure if it's really placebo, but there is research done on how a car door should sound when you close it. A flat and boring pank sound would do just fine, but a lot of people find that soft, plush and yet firm schrumpf sound reassures them the door is closed. Someone please do a better job here describing car doors closing because mine sucks. My friend's husband is a sound engineer, IDK if that's the right word, for this exact thing. His entire job is making sure that the car stuff sounds right. That free shipping is a better deal. It generally means they've added the cost into the product instead, but you feel like you've gotten a better deal. This is 100% true. I used to sell furniture at an no gimmicks kind of place, where they were open about all cost, including delivery. I would do the math for people, show them how we were still saving them tons of money even with delivery, but some people would still walk out and go pay literally hundreds of dollars more for free delivery from Ashley's. When cake mixes first came out, you only had to add water to them, but too many housewives felt like that was cheating and wouldn't buy cake mixes. So the cake mix companies added another step, the eggs. It worked. Apparently the cracking and adding of the eggs to the batter was enough to make it feel more homemade and cake mixes became extremely popular. Now I'm mad. I have probably 3 cake mixes in my pantry right now that I keep using up all my eggs before getting to make. If it wasn't for those housewives I would have had cake by now. Unbelievable. I'm not sure if it still does this, but at one time Google Docs intercepted the Ctrl+S shortcut and briefly changes the cursor to the thinking cursor. Hourglass, beach ball, whatever your computer does. You don't need to save your Google Docs. They save every tiny change on the server, but people are used to doing it. That's like autosave in games, though. Very often I'll manually save, too, just to be sure. In any sort of RPG I always keep 3 saves, in case anything corrupts or is broken. I saw an article about how Apple Music made random selection less random because people would often complain the same artist would follow after a song, so they made an algorithm to not select a song made by the same artist until after some songs. Controlled randomness, if you will. The exaggerated sounds of some vacuum cleaners, microwaves and cars to make them sound powerful. The loading screens on some apps that make it seem like they are doing something complex. Your permanent record. Colleges care more about what you say on Twitter and Facebook than what you said to Dakota in 3rd grade. The only time your permanent record means something is if you transfer within the district. And the reason colleges care about that is because it's much easier for the average person to find out what you said on Twitter than it is for them to find out stuff on your school record. Bubbles and cleaning products. Early formulations of soap way back when used to naturally form suds. Newer formulations can clean better but don't naturally produce suds, as the bubbling was an incidental side effect that doesn't actually have any bearing on cleaning. When these newer soaps were first introduced, people complained they didn't work because they didn't make loads of bubbles. So the manufacturers started adding a chemical solely to generate bubbles that didn't actually help with the cleaning at all, and all the complaints stopped. To this day the association of bubbles equals clean is strong enough that they still do it. Basically all cleaning products, including toothpaste, foam up when used, and almost without exception the foam is 100% marketing. It is not uncommon to having a loading screen or icon placed in queries sometimes just because the average user doesn't expect it to be this quick. Intentional lag on websites when signing up, payment processing. Source: I write code sometimes at work. That minty fresh, zesty clean feeling you get from toothpaste. It started as a marketing strategy and caught on. And now almost all toothpaste is mint because we associate the minty freshness with cleanliness. Actually, it was to help mask the taste of the stannous fluoride. Milky or opaque white moisturizing body wash. It's the same as the clear ones. It's not more moisturizing. It just has white pigments in it. But because it's not clear, people associate it with lotion and think it's better for the skin. Turkey doesn't have enough tryptophan to make you sleepy. You're most likely sleepy cause you ate too much and your body is in rest and digest mode. For some reason I thought this was about the country at first and I was very confused. Wine prices. They've done studies that show people think wine tastes better if it costs more, but when they do a blind taste test, very few people, even people who are wine drinkers, not everyone. There are some people who can tell, but it's a pretty small percentage. Can't distinguish between pretty cheap, $15-20 bottle, and expensive wine. Leslie: Nope. I'm going to be direct and honest with you. I would like a glass of red wine and I'll take the cheapest one you have because I can't tell the difference. Drinking Canada Dry ginger ale helps with an upset tummy. They were sued because their ginger ale has no ginger in it. And that was the only stuff that helped when I had the stomach flu as a kid. I got the stomach flu a lot too. Verner's, on the other hand, is basically a cure-all and you can't convince me otherwise. When my younger brother was a kid, the doctor told him that sitting on a grocery bag will keep him from getting sick in the car. The real trick here, of course, is that if he does get sick, he has a bag to throw up into. He's in his 20s now and he still doesn't believe me that it's just a trick, because it worked. I install commercial audio video systems. On bigger, more involved jobs like stadiums and arenas, we have AV consultants who don't work for my company but are a big link in the chain. As far as designing and etching the finished system, I don't know how many times I've been up in a 80 feet boom lift and they want the azimuth or down angle of a speaker adjusted by some ridiculously small amount. So you get back up there, bang a couple wrenches on the speaker, and don't actually move crap. How's that? Oh yeah, that sounds better. Works every goddamn time. When I was in my film major in college, our audio professor told us to have some spare cables on hand to wire up a dummy on the control board. Just a big obvious cord coming out of the controls and wired into nothing. Stuff behind an Apple box or something. If it sounds perfectly fine to you, he said, just twist or slide something on the dummy channel ever so slightly and play it again. Using gas with a higher octane rating than what the manufacturer recommends. My car runs so much better on premium than regular. Octane rating of gasoline is not a measurement of how much energy is in fuel. It is a measurement of how resistant to pre-detonation it is. If the manufacturer says to use 87, putting 91 or 93 into the vehicle makes no difference. The car cannot tell a higher octane fuel is being used. It can only tell if a lower octane fuel might be used by virtue of the knock sensor. If the sensor detects knocking or pinging, the computer will retard the timing to eliminate the knock. Purling timing can reduce the amount of power the engine makes. The fuel map the computer uses to manage your engine is made for a specific octane rating. On high performance cars, the compression is higher and the timing is more aggressive. Therefore high octane is necessary. If your car says it requires premium, use it. If it says recommended, regular can be used unless the vehicle is under heavy load. Don't spend 15% more on gas because your car feels like it runs better on premium. When I repair smartphone or computer, and if something takes me 10 minutes or less, I usually stall because customer don't want to pay the agree amount and want to haggle because I did it too fast. So I'll let them wait 25-30 minutes, and they will pay happily. When I was working a catering gig at my university, everyone eating off fancy plates at sit-down dinners in the ballrooms, fundraisers and receptions and every other formal dinner occasion that might be held at a university, were eating the same bulk commercial grade food that was served in the dorms. They'd tell us to give their compliments to the chef. Lady, the only difference between your $40 fancy reception plate pork chop and my $4 cafeteria pork chop was that mine came on a paper plate. And yes, I do happen to know where the chef gets his choice cuts. Aramark Food Services, just like everyone else. But you put that stuff on a delicate plate with gold on the edges? They think it's the most wonderful thing they've eaten all year. For men, shaving their beard makes it grow thicker. This not the case. Shaving only makes all hair grow at the same, giving the illusion that more or new hair is growing when in reality it is not. To add on to your point, it's also the angle of the cut. Normal growing hair is thinner on the end, almost creating a point. Shaved hair has a blunt end. A lot of the cold prevention medications, like Coldfix or something similar, a test was done on some of them and they were often found to be not much more than a sugar pill. Also, those vitamin gummy bears. We studied them in school and they are often not much different than regular gummy bears. There are often not as much vitamins in them as they say. Most of the ones that say they are good for hair and nails, people say they work, but that's because it's the gelatin that's good for your hair and nails. You gotta admit though that gummy bears are a very tasty way to eat ground up animal bones. The roller coaster clicking noise on the lift hill isn't necessary anymore. It used to be needed to prevent trains from rolling back if the chain snaps, but now technology has advanced and it could be silent, but it's perfect preparation for the ride. If I went on Thunder Mountain and didn't hear the clicks, I'd probably crap myself out of fear. The idea that drinking orange juice shortly before going to bed will keep you from sleeping because of the vitamin C. The same people who swear that it works like coffee on them eat raw tomatoes for dinner all summer long and never complain about sleeping issues, even though tomatoes contain more vitamin C than a glass of OJ. Homeopathy. My mum is a homeopath and I don't subscribe to it at all. Please save your judgments. I'm not here to discuss that, but I've seen her help many people with minor to moderate afflictions. While the medicine definitely doesn't work, the patients believe it does. In this, along with the fact that sitting down for an hour with someone who listens to all of your problems and ailments in detail, and takes much more interest in their life than a normal GP would, leads to them having belief that they'll get better. My belief is that the psychological help they receive often helps with problems, especially ones that are exacerbated by stress. Also, I'll note that any homeopath who isn't a crappy person does not try to treat mental illness or life-threatening conditions that require real medical care, and will tell the patient this. Head on. Apply directly to the forehead. Head on. Apply directly to the forehead. Head on. Apply directly to the forehead. Took me years to find out what this product did. No info other you apply it to the forehead. Kind of an anti-placebo, but message actually isn't bad for you. Multiple blind studies suggest that eating message results in no negative reactions, but knowing that you have eaten message can result in headaches. I remember a riddle my professor told us a few months ago. A place had been getting complaints that the elevators took too long while they waited in the lobby and that they should speed them up. So as a problem solver, how would you fix that? Add more elevators? Increase the speed of the elevators? Neither. The solution to the problem was by adding mirrors in the lobbies. The mirrors distracted the customers of their awareness of how much time was being passed, thus creating a sense of faster wait times. When guests complain that the beer doesn't taste well because they think it's from the bottom of the keg, so I replace their beer with the same one and they swear it's better. They might just be reverse placeboing you and just saying that it's better because they feel bad sending it back twice. Homeopathy, the entire thing is just placebo. Some mixtures don't even have a single atom of the original substance. It's essentially 100% sugar water. I don't know if this is a common known thing, but there is a thing called sham surgery, which is basically a fake surgery. They cut open a part of your body only to stitch it back up and do nothing at all. Most patients have reported improved results. So in other words, you trick your own brain into believing that you're no longer in pain. When I was a waitress 100 years ago, my customers asked me all the time to turn the heat up down because they were too hot cold. I'd be like, oh yeah, definitely, let me go take care of that for you. Then I would go stand in the back, drink some water and then head back to the table and tell them I'd adjusted the temperature. It worked every single time. They could also just not want to be the annoying person who asks twice. Not in every case of course, but occasionally I'm sure that happened. Period synchronization. Every woman I've ever met swears it's a thing, but the data show it is not. It's just that different people have slightly different cycles, so they go in and out of sync with each other constantly over time. Kind of like multiple cars' blinkers when stopped at a light. I have psoriasis, and have been on at least a half dozen biologics that treat the condition by blocking either T cells or a specific protein used in the immune system. For me, they work well, for a while, but they take time to work. This is by design, but our psoriasis is full of people who get their first shot and the next day are posting pics about their miraculous transformation. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.